evening, everybody, and welcome to RAMP, Real Access Motivates Progress, weekly live podcast. We are so excited to be in your households tonight on your phones or your laptops, and we have a great show for you, especially for all of the women out there. Tonight, we are talking to the Women's Fund of Rhode Island with Kelly Nevins and Angela McCalla. Welcome, ladies, and thank you for joining our show tonight.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
We are so excited to learn more about what you guys do and what the Women Fund does for Rhode Island and beyond. Let's start with you, Kelly. Give us a little bit of background about who you are and what you do.
Sure. So I am the CEO of the Women's Fund of Rhode Island. And the name sounds really big. I mean, we're a small organization. We have 3 employees, but it's really important to highlight the work that women do in leading businesses and organizations. And so the title is very important. We want to see more women in the C-suite. And so not using the term executive director is one way to model that for the community. The Women's Fund of Rhode Island is a nonprofit organization whose mission is to invest in women and girls. We do that through research on the status of women and girls in Rhode Island, advocacy for policies that help women to thrive and that helps our communities thrive as well as we're what we call a small G grant maker. We do make some grants to other organizations within the state of Rhode Island. And our goal is to achieve gender equity through systemic change. When we talk about equity, we talk generally about using a gender lens, but honestly, we can't have equity in our communities. We can't have gender equity without making sure that everybody has an equal opportunity to thrive. So we recognize the intersections and different identities that women bring to the table. And so we're also addressing racial equity, physical equity, income equity, a variety of different intersections where there is just an uneven balance throughout our communities for having people be able to thrive. So we are part of a network of women's funds that are around the country and frankly around the world. Many of them, like us, do advocacy, and many of them do other things as well. As a small organization, we have few programs, and those programs that we have are ones that really work on systemic change. So that's what we're about.
That is awesome. Angela, why don't you tell us a little bit about you and what you do?
As you said, Tina, my name is Angela McCalla. I work as the Director of Policy and Advocacy over at the Women's Fund of Rhode Island. Well, in this, I have the pleasure. I think that this position is really neat because I get to really, under the advocacy piece, I get to try to help influence. I'm at the state legislators talking and building relationships to help pass really good legislation in the name of equity. And I also, on the other side, I get to train a lot of our future generations that are coming in here, who may be future politicians or policymakers as well. So
that's awesome.
What I do.
And yeah, today just seemed like a very fun day for this to land with Governor McKee signing all of those laws today, and it was a total coincidence. Like, it was not planned to have this the same day he signed that. It was just so, see how the world even works around us women. We have the power to make this happen. Tell us what him signing all of that meant to you today, Kelly.
Sure. So since I have been involved with the Women's Fund, I came in late 2016. I have been part of a group of advocates who have been working to pass the Fair Pay Act. And just to be wholly honest, lots of women and advocates in our community were working on the Fair Pay Act even before I came on board and joined the group. for several years, we just have not been able to get it over the finish line. And this year, I was part of the small negotiation team that worked with the business community to find a way where we could get to common ground and pass a law that essentially means that number one, a potential employer can't ask what your previous historical salary has been before extending you a job offer. That they must provide you with the salary range for the position, and that this law also gives people an opportunity to have better ways to fight a business if they feel that they are being paid for unfair reasons at a certain level lower than other people. So the reasons an employer could pay somebody differently should not be based on your gender, religion, the fact that you might be using a wheelchair, et cetera, et cetera. It has to be for reasons that are directly tied to the job. So they could pay people differently if one person had a college degree that was directly related to the position. But if, say, they're doing accounting and they have an advanced degree in art, they can't give somebody a higher salary based on the fact that they simply have a higher degree. It has to be related to the job. In addition, they might pay somebody differently because they work different shifts. So it might be harder to find workers to work the night shift. And so you might pay somebody more for that reason. Or because they have to travel a lot more than other employees. Or it might be based on performance. One person is producing more widgets or doing more things than another. They're accomplishing more. And it might be because of longevity within an organization. Those are all valid reasons why an employer could pay somebody differently for doing the same job. But for too long, we know through our research that particularly women have been paid very significantly different than men for doing the same job with the same experience for the same amount of time. And so this law gives them more opportunities to bring that to light and have basically be made whole for money that they might have lost out on. So we are one of many states now that have this law on the books. It took us many years to get here, and today that bill got signed into law. In addition, several other what we call women-centric laws were passed. No longer can, in Rhode Island, an insurer charge women more for health insurance than men just by the basis of the fact that we are women. Also, in Rhode Island now, we will be able to make period products, menstrual products, available in public schools for free. And finally, the explanation of benefits letters that you get from your insurance company are no longer going to a household, or should no longer go to a household. They will go to the person who got the benefit. And we believe that will help, in particular, people who might be experiencing domestic violence or some kind of control situation where they would maybe avoid getting medical attention for something because those explanation of benefits go to the household, and then somebody knows that they were getting help for something that they didn't want a family member
Right.
to know about. So really important stuff got passed today. A huge contingent of the Rhode Island community, advocate community, worked on these bills. We very specifically worked on the Fair Pay Act, but we also played supporting roles in all of the other bills that got passed as well. So
That's
hooray!
awesome. Yeah, I mean, it takes forever to be a bill to become law, but it's the persistency and us just keep doing to do the right thing. Angela, you must have played a big role in this, especially being the director of policy and advocacy. What did this mean for you today to have him sign all of this?
Uh, so I will let you know, I'm probably I'm fairly new to the job, so I definitely want to give credit to Kelly and all of her work. That definitely Kelly has definitely been the spearhead for a lot of these bills. And also, but today it was just really just reflecting on the day to be a part of one of many coalitions that were there today, and to stand in solidarity. I mean, there was just this breath of satisfaction that we could see. And this was something of pride, no matter where you were standing, whether you were the policymaker or the advocate. I This was definitely something that you could feel. It was definitely a good victory for Rhode Island. I think we're moving in the right path, and we're making good strides, but we're gonna keep going too.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
always
and I
hit one
should
hurdle,
I
but we always
forgot.
have about 10 more to go.
Right, right. And I forgot one other important bill that was signed into law today. Shame on me. Also now, women candidates can use their campaign funds to pay for childcare, which
That's
Oh,
was
I
wonderful.
not
love that
something
one.
that
Yeah.
you could do before. Yeah, so this will help more people who are parents run for office. It's not just about women. When we make these laws and we create more opportunities for equity, it means everybody benefits.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
awesome. And we're going to talk a little bit more about, what you guys do because that fascinates me. But I want to talk about the family leave bus tour and childcare issues that we have going on. Kelly, tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. There is nationally right now a family leave bus tour that kicked off in Providence on Monday. Went to Boston after it left us, and it's going across the country. And the goal of this tour is to, number one, raise awareness about, again, the fact that the U.S. is only one of two developed countries that does not provide paid family leave to parents or to those who are caring for family members. So certainly this became apparent during COVID, where many people, and particularly women, had to either leave their jobs or take unpaid time out of work to care for family members. It may have been because family members were sick, but it also may have been because they had to homeschool, something like that. And until the fact that our Congress people passed legislation that would help to pay for things because they were no longer working, it meant that many of these people were in danger of losing their homes, not being able to pay rent or mortgage or get basic needs taken care of, because who was going to take care of their kids or
Right.
their sick loved ones? So the paid leave bus tour, like I said, is going around the country. It really is an opportunity to lift up the need for a permanent national paid family leave program that everyone can benefit from. In addition, just imagine not having to go to work sick because you couldn't afford to take time out unpaid time out to take care of yourself. And
Right.
now in this sort of COVID world, we can't do that anymore. We can't put these burdens on people. We need them to be healthy, and we need them not to get everybody else unfortunately sick in our community too. Stay home,
Right.
take care of yourself. We will make sure that your basic needs are met. That's what paid leave is
Right.
all about.
And the nice thing is we learned that we could all work from home if we really needed to answer that one email or somebody absolutely needing a question in your home, taking care of yourself. You can do it from home. That was an eye opener to everybody that it does happen. Like, let it happen. Angela, could you give us a little bit of the statistics about women inequality in Rhode Island? Can you touch base on those, or would Kelly be better for that one?
I will defer to Kelly.
So Angela can definitely talk about the Run As You Are program. So we can when we get to that, we can share that with
Okay.
our audience. Yeah. In terms of statistics about women in general, what I will say, since we have a national audience with us tonight, there is something called the global gender gap. which is a report that is put out every year by the World Economic Forum. And so this global gender gap report looks at how well women do compared to men on a number of different screens, and compares all of the developed countries around the world to each other. So the United States currently ranks 153 out of 144 developed countries for how well women do compared to men. And so, we do pretty good when it comes to women in education and women being in the workforce. But we do actually really awfully when we start thinking about how women compare to men with health issues. Women actually, our health compared to men in this country is really quite awful. I would give us an F grade. And also women in general in leadership. So political leadership and leading our top businesses and companies across the United States, we're just not well represented. So overall, according to the Global Gender Gap Report, the United States gets it gets like a B minus overall, but there are many areas where we're not doing well. And that includes, again, health, that includes political empowerment, that includes leadership. And until we work more on creating opportunities for everybody to thrive and dealing with systemic issues like the fact that we lack a childcare infrastructure in this country, like the fact that we don't have paid family leave or even paid sick time that everybody can access, that means we're still never going to be as great as other countries are. So, Iceland is the #1 country for how women do compared to men. So if we could, find some ways to be more like Iceland, that would be wonderful.
I would say most men think that most women are like Iceland. Very cool, but yeah, that's because they don't get us. But it's all good. But I mean, that's pretty sad when you got one of the leading countries in the world and we're doing so poorly in this. But this brings me to one of the most fascinating things I think about you guys is the thing you do to help people learn how to run for office. Angela, I want you to dig into this because this is like one of my favorite things that you do, because I may be in your class one of these days because everybody keeps telling me I need to run for something. So I'm rolling, but I don't know about running. So we'll see.
Well, so we have events. We often put on events that happen, or training sessions that present itself for the community. So in this particular situation, on Wednesday, August 18th, from 4 to 7, we're going to be doing a campaign called Run As You Are. So we've coupled with another organization called Vote Run Lead. And it is geared towards, if you're a Rhode Island resident and a woman, please learn. We're really trying to focus and provide trainings to critical components of a campaign and get people feeling ready to really just take the next steps. Not just to win, but to build a movement of women leaders as well. And I think that along with this training, we are very excited to have a panelist discussion. So we have Senator Megan Kalman, as well as Senator Sandra Cano from Pawtucket, City Councilwoman from Providence, representing Ward 3, Nerva LaFortune, as well as School Committee member Stephanie Winslow from Newport. And all of these women are current elected officials, and are going to be there as a form of Q&A discussion, and really just to share, their experience as they ran and had to do campaigns and such.
I think that's so cool because no, go ahead, Kelly.
No, go ahead, Kelly. Our program on August 18th is primarily for folks in Rhode Island and southeastern New England. The organization that we're partnering with, Vote Run Lead, actually does a virtual training that people can access from their website, and they are working with people all across the country. And the one last thing that I'll note is because we're a nonprofit organization, it means that we're nonpartisan. We're not, we're not growing Democratic candidates. We're not growing Republican candidates. That's not what we're about. What we're about is helping people to think about what value they can bring to the community and convince them that they, Tina, you already have all of the skills that you need in order to run for office. A lot of people we hear, oh, I don't think I'm qualified. No, your life experience is enough to help you be the person that's needed up in your city council, your school committee, the state house, even Congress. It's just a matter of helping you imagine what it's like to run for office and to help you think about the messaging that you wanted to get. And then we can help connect you with, different parties based on your information. uh, that's not our deal. Our deal is just to help people really think about, the important piece, the diverse piece that each of you bring to the community.
Yeah.
And what I would
Yeah,
say
when I
is,
was having
uh,
wait a minute, when I was having the conversation with the Secretary of State a couple of weeks ago, it's very important that you may not be ready right this minute, but join a campaign, help somebody along. If you stand for something or you have an idea, instead of just sitting at home being that Monday morning coach, as I say, that the football game was all wrong because if you were doing it, it would have been done this way. Do it, jump in. This is something that you can jump into. You can help out. You can get in on any level you want before you start to run. Like, I love people who jump in to run for governor when they don't even know what they're doing at like a town council level. You know what I mean? Like, so join like the smaller groups, join a campaign, learn, but definitely reach out to you ladies because I love what you do because you empower people to use their voices. And what is more important than using your voice instead of just, like I said, complaining about it at home? Find a positive way to bring a positive message and find the solution. It's okay to complain, but when you make a complaint, my biggest thing is you can complain about anything you want. Give me 3 solutions you think will fix it. So don't just give me the complaint. Give me 3 ideas that you think will fix it. That's the only way it's going to change. But yeah, Kelly, tell
Yeah.
us a little bit more because, like I said, this is so amazing to me. I love what this piece does.
yeah, so, well, this is just one campaign training program, but Angela is actually going to be overseeing our Women's Policy Institute, which is another way for folks to think about how they can contribute to the community without necessarily running for office. And so, Angela, would you share a little bit about the Women's Policy Institute?
Yes. But before I do that, I wanted to just add one more thing to, in terms of run as you are. Interestingly enough, like we've been successful at the state level to have at least more than 50% representation for women in the state house. But our boards, our commissions, our city, our local municipal governments are something also that Kelly and I are currently exploring in terms of wanting to get more diversification. We all come with many perspectives, many different lenses, right, of life and our interpretation. And the reality of the situation is that there has been so much research to suggest that. When the more perspectives that we can have in a decision making table to take one idea and look at it from many different angles, that creates innovation and that creates um, less risk in the long run too. So Kelly and I really we are looking forward to 2022 legislation session as well, and figuring out different ways as to how to make sure that we also bring that up. So like even if you're not ready to run for office, like your boards and commissions are like those are the checks and balances also in our government system, and your government only works as well as your representation. So
I agree with you.
that's what I
Before you go into the next thing, I want to touch on that. Every nonprofit in the state has a board. Um, it's a board and a committee. So you can find a cause that you like, say it's breast cancer, or say it's animals, or disability, or whatever it is. Every nonprofit has a board. Every board has a committee. So you can find something that you're passionate about and start your legacy there. Start your, getting into it. Once you get into it, you meet more people, you go higher up, you go on to the next thing, then you find a commission of something that you want. So there are ways to do it in baby steps where you're not going from sitting on your couch watching Happy Days, aging myself, to running for governor the next day. Like, pace yourself, do it slowly, but have your voice heard. That's what's important. Now, Angela, tell us about the other thing you were talking about.
Oh, so I am currently overseeing the Women's Policy Institute. And what that is a professional development and mentoring program. So a lot of our work is done through policy advocacy and strategic communication. And every year from September to June, women from across the state of Rhode Island, from many walks of life, come together, and what they learn is how legislation is pretty much drafted and how to advocate for policies that make our state a more equitable place to live. We are super excited. We have just finished with application deadlines and such. And so we have a cohort of 16 women who are currently joining this initiative and are expected to begin very shortly. So, but I also wanted to lift it up and, really, really be transparent and say one of the things that I'm looking to connect with too is our differently abled population as well. Again, so whether we were talking about running, um, we need people's voices at the table, and we need to understand what is it that we're missing and what can we help each other fight for. And so I'm really looking, to deepen my connection and also our understanding, and bring future leaders with us, right, to understand that perspective and that story. And this cohort kind of meets, and it's like 9 months of intense, like, training, learning, connecting, um, and pushing things that are meaningful to the group. And so we move together collectively. And the nice piece about this policy institute is we really have the expectation that this isn't going to be just a training in 9 months and then we say see you later, goodbye. We want to continue on that relationship, because again, our intention is to create a network of strong leading, like, women to link arm in arm. And let's not forget to always look behind us too, and lift up those that really are underrepresented. So
That is that
mhm.
is awesome. And what I like to say is, I fought for so long, being in my wheelchair for 7 years, to get invited to the tables. Imagine if you're a policy leader or you're running a board. I create the table, and now you can fight to have a seat at my table. You know what I mean? So that's the power that you can end up with later, that you're no longer fighting to get heard. Now everybody else is fighting to sit at your table. And I am finally getting to that point where people want to work with me. People want to talk to me and find out how they can become more accessible, or they can be more open, or they can be more inclusive, where it's kind of turned the tables now, where I'm not fighting so much to, reach out to every single person I see out there. They're reaching out to me. So by running and by being a part of these boards and commissions, you now get to turn the tables on everybody else, and people will be asking you the questions, instead of the other way around. I just love that whole model to everything like that. Kelly, you have anything to add to that?
Only that what you've just said is really profound, Tina, because of course you and I met working on the governor's transition team. We were both asked to serve to advise our new governor about equity and justice. And so, you know, the fact that we both have been advocates for a variety of things in our community got us to the tables where those decisions are being made. And we had an opportunity to just last week share with our local governor some of the thoughts that we had that, you know, would make our community stronger moving forward. So, you know, neither one of us, Tina, at this time is serving in office, and yet we're both having impact. And a lot
Yeah.
of it is simply about, you know, being part of those conversations, and it starts with being part of boards and commissions. It starts with advocacy. And the other thing that I would just add here is, you know, before I came to the Women's Fund, I was not involved in advocacy really at all. And so the first time that I was asked to meet with legislators about an issue representing the Women's Fund, I was totally shaking in my shoes. The first hearing that I you know, gave my testimony to, I was totally like, I had my notes clutched and I was scared. All these people were looking at me, and after a while, I realized, wait, they actually really want to hear from us. They they're listening to
Yeah.
us. Um, and one of the things that I heard from a legislator that to me just really brought it home is they said, you know, I got so many calls from constituents on this bill. And then I asked, oh, yeah, how many? And they said 10. 10 is a tiny number. It's a tiny number. Imagine if
Yeah.
two more people had called and were advocating for something that we really wanted to change. You know, like
Right.
just imagine you being you in this audience, you being that person who's picking up the phone, who's finding a way to write some testimony, who's, you know, writing a letter to the editor in the newspaper about something that you care passionately about. They need to hear from you. And guess what? We hired them. Whether you voted
Yeah.
or not, we hired them. If you voted and you know that your guy, your girl got elected, great. If you didn't vote, then you allowed somebody else to pick the person who's working on our behalf. So
Right.
you know, all of these pieces are just so critical and important.
Yeah, I don't know about you. I don't want to speak for you, but I found it so empowering when I got reached out from the governor's office asking me to sit on, a bunch of his transition team to represent my community and to actually sit in those groups and have all of our voices heard. I mean, I met some incredible people on those calls. Um, we were actually engaged. Like I still talk to them offline now, for other things, and we're working together because I didn't realize this one did this and that kind of connects with me. And oh, Kelly, you should be connecting with this one because they do the same thing you do. And we're now networking for each other because we can tie in who can work with who and whose voice needs to be heard. The other thing is that what the pandemic opened up is they opened up call testimony, which that was amazing because like even for Raise the Bar when they were going for safe staffing, the amount of calls that people had called in, from their own home to have their voices heard was like nothing unheard of that would actually be in those chambers. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? Like
right,
it was
right,
so
absolutely.
amazing to sit and listen to all of the testimony of people calling in from their home, actually wanting to have a say. Keep it going. Don't let the pandemic and now that the world is opening up stop you from having your voice being heard. Angela, how was it the first time that somebody seemed to take you seriously and really held on your words and wanted to hear what you had to advocate about? No, I love to hear these stories because, it's when you get that first empowerment feeling, it's like, I want to do more, you know?
Sure. So, so my intersectionality can absolutely speak to that. So, when I also serve as the one of the Newport City councilors, and I serve my first ward, obviously in the city of Newport. And for me, I am the second um, black woman in over 50 years to serve on the council, and I am also the first Asian American, and one that represents um, biracial, individual with two immigrant parents. I am first generation born here, and I grew up in a very blended family. So although my biological parents weren't meant to be, they both remarried. So my father remarried to a woman from Mauritania, and my mother remarried to an Italian American from North Providence. So
From
that
North
you can
Providence.
imagine. Yeah. So I had, you know, I've had lots of experiences as a child to understand many different perspectives. And I think that a lot of that kind of grounded me as a child. And that was something that was the center and the value. Um, I think a lot of my values are obviously centered through my family. My family, I come from a long line of advocates internationally, believe it or not. But in my Newport City Council capacity, um, for sure, I think for me, one of the reasons why I ran was just like everyone else, right? Like you start attending these meetings, and then quickly I realized there's nobody to represent me as a worker,
Right.
me as a biracial person, me living in a certain section of Newport, you know um in and the reality was stunning. So, and the other thing I would encourage our audience is, please, if uh go see a city council meeting sometime. It's like, it's wonderful stuff. Like, you need to know there, like, how your municipal leaders kind of like make decisions on behalf of your city. You live there. And it's
Yeah.
amazing. But anyway, but I think you're right. Like, in that term, I was one of the biggest things that I fought for was a lot of racial equity issues. Even right now, just understanding even the location, Newport is getting ready to do one of the biggest developments they've had in their history, and it happens to fall between one of the highest margins of a minority population in a community that lives there. And the reality is that we are having discussions that were never had before, which is,
Right.
the art of thinking about community benefits agreements, right? Like, coming for every business, what can you do? What are you going to do for the residents that isn't going to harm but actually enhance the quality for
Right.
people's living? And then also the concept of equitable development is, most people think that economic development and equitable development are adversarial partners, but it actually just like really makes sense, and it makes sense for a community as a whole, and it's a strategy that's completely um, inclusive. So,
Yeah.
so
I
for
agree. I
me,
think more, yeah. I think more people need to open their mind and meet a neighbor, meet somebody of a different color or a different race, or you know what I mean? Like I said, and we're so interracial now, you know what I mean, with all of the blended families that we have out there, that there's no reason not to meet somebody that you would never talk to. I have more friends of people that I should not be friends with. Like, we are completely like from different parts of life. And now they're like my best friends. You know what I mean? Because we intersected at an event or at a commission or at a board or at a meeting, and we thought alike, or we, you know what I mean? So you can go out of your way and change your perspective and meet somebody where they are, and it probably will be your best friend in a short period of time. Kelly, what was your first, do you remember your first empowerment that you wanted to, like, this is what I wanted to do, this is why I do what I do?
Um, well, certainly, since I've been at the Women's Fund, I have had some amazing opportunities. I will say, the first time that I was brought into a negotiation room, we were negotiating a very controversial bill, and I was picked to go in the room because I was the warm body that had the time, uh, and
Nice.
part of a coalition, not because I particularly had, the expertise uh, in the room. At any rate, we got in there, and again, this was early on at my time at the Women's Fund, so I hadn't had a lot of direct advocacy experience. And the chairwoman of a competing bill had asked to meet with us, and she started the meeting by standing up and yelling at us and pointing at us and saying how awful we all were and how dare we, decide not to back her bill. And again, it was terrifying for me because still pretty new in all of this, and I certainly don't want to say the wrong thing and be the person who, somehow tanks everything. But when she was finished, I just said, "Rep, I'm really sorry. I'm new to this. Can you just tell me why the changes that you have in your bill are so important? I just want to understand." And she calmed down, and she actually really educated me about some really important pieces that were in her bill that weren't in the competing bill. And I said, "Oh, I got it." I
Yeah.
understand. And she had said at the end of that meeting, "Well, I want the Women's Fund to support this bill, and I need to know tonight." And because they were doing a hearing tonight. And I said to her, I can't say right now that we absolutely will support this, but what I will say is, that we think there are really good pieces in this bill. I just need to understand a little bit more, and if you need me to go on record, I will say we consider these changes to be important. I just couldn't, without having a lawyer look at the
Right.
language that she had in her bill, say without reservation that we would support it. Ultimately, we did support that bill. Ultimately, that bill got passed instead of the bill that we originally backed. And that particular rep and I have a really strong relationship now. She'll pick up the phone and give me
Yeah.
a call and say, "Hey, Kelly, I think the Women's Fund needs to consider this piece. I think you're missing the ball on that."
Yeah.
She's a straight talker, and I appreciate it. And she comes from communities that I haven't normally intersected with before. So
Yeah.
it was really important to hear that feedback.
Yeah, see, I had the opposite moment. I had everybody else have the aha moment. Like the first couple of meetings that I went to when I was in a wheelchair, I was very self-conscious about my wheelchair because I didn't feel like I was being taken seriously because everybody felt bad for the girl in the wheelchair. So one of the big meetings that I had to go to, one of my first big meetings that I had to go to with the Senate and the Secretary of State, and this was a couple of years ago, I went to the room first. I got in the room first and I sat in a regular chair and I made them take my wheelchair away, and I sat with everybody else and we had this amazing conversation talking about accessibility and physical stuff, and everybody felt and were themselves. When we went to the cocktail hour after and I had my wheelchair, you saw the aha moment come on everybody's faces, like, now I know why she said that because look what she's in, like, but they like, I sorry what I said. I said, no, I want you to be honest. Just because I'm in a wheelchair doesn't mean I don't want to hear your opinion because it's probably valid. But it was everybody else's aha moment that I'm like everybody else. I have the same voice and you can talk the same way because that's the only way that we're going to meet in the middle. So I had the opposite aha moment. And I'll tell you, it was the moment that changed everything for me because I was no longer embarrassed by my wheelchair. I used it as my power and got other people to stand up and be themselves around me to talk and work things out and find a way to make things happen. That and that's what's so important for all of us. What
Sure.
is your absolute mission and vision for the Women's Fund, Kelly?
Yeah, well, so we see a future in which everyone can thrive. And Tina, while it sounds like that particular strategy worked really well for you, I we would really like to see a world where you don't have to hide an identity, that you can come into a room as you are. You can be part of the conversation as you are and be valued and have equitable opportunities to to live in a community that you want to live in. So
Right.
we have on our website this really great video that is about equity, and it shows a bike race. And perhaps many of your audience have seen something like this, but we use it when we want to talk about what it means to be equitable, not equal, equitable. So it's about a bike race. And so if you want to have an equal opportunity bike race, you give everybody the same bike. But I'm a short person, so if the bike is for the average size male, that bike is going to be too big for me. Tina, you probably would have to have a different type of bike in order to
Yeah.
participate.
I'd have to
The
have a hand cycle.
Yeah, right, exactly. So equitable is about giving people the tools that they need so that they can compete and have an equitable chance of achieving the end of the race kind of thing. So it's a great short little video that just really it emphasizes why we need equity in our community. And so the vision we have is for a world where everyone can thrive. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. And like I said, I mean, that was the moment, but I did it on purpose because I wanted other people to know that they didn't need to change who they were to be around me, and I
Sure.
can be part of the conversation and I can value what they're saying, even though it's against maybe something that I believe in or that I'm going through. So, like I said, it was a
Right.
reverse aha moment to let them know that you can talk to me like a normal person, whether you know I'm in a wheelchair or not. And I really believe our Zoom calls, there were many people on our Zoom calls that didn't even know I was in a wheelchair because I sit in this brown chair most of the time. And it's not my wheelchair. That a lot of people just thought I was everybody else. You know what I mean? So I always made a point to tell them that, I'm disabled in a wheelchair because I'm proud of it. What is your mission and your vision, Angela? Like, what do you see for everything?
I think Kelly pretty much embodies what I'm thinking too. I think for me, one of the biggest, as a policy, like working in policy and advocacy, I think it's important to get everybody in the room and you know promote as many opportunities as we can to tell people, you know, we want to hear from you. Your voice matters and your participation is everything. And so for us, we're really looking to strengthen a lot more voices from different walks of life. I think that's how we should be moving. We should forever be evolving and never feeling comfortable. We always want to strive for what's best for the community for sure as a whole. So
I absolutely love that. And I'm going to put you on the spot because I'm going to make you go first and I'm going to ask Kelly the same question. But now that we're nearing the end of the hour, what are the most important thing that you want your listeners to know about the Women's Fund of Rhode Island and the Women's Fund across the country? Like, what do you think is the most important thing that you would like people to take away of what you talked about tonight?
Angela, you want to go first?
um, yeah. So I think um, again, I want to meet people. I want to be taught. Our Women's Fund of Rhode Island wants to be taught something or told something that we've never learned, and to be able to support that and be and because I think even in our spaces, if we're I feel like when you become complacent and comfortable, you stop growing. And I think for our organization, there's so many powerful, wonderful warrior like women who just embody all of that. I think if you want to come to a group and meet someone new and be a part of something in the community that is bigger than yourself, we are the organization for you, and we'd love to meet you and listen to what your story is.
I love that. Kelly?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And so, Angela spoke on behalf of the Women's Fund of Rhode Island. I'll speak on behalf of the Women's Funding Network. That again, there are women's funds all across the United States and around the world. Many states have more than one women's fund. Many of them are located in urban centers. So, our neighbor Massachusetts actually has four, maybe five women's funds for each of the different regions plus Boston. So, do a search women's fund in your community and see what comes up. And you'll find opportunities to get engaged, to get educated, and to help make a difference. And we need more people, more voices. Again, we use a gender lens to look at problems, but our ultimate goal is equity for everyone. Yeah.
I absolutely love that. And, one of my favorite sayings or thoughts is that you're never supposed to know what somebody else thinks of you or how many lives you've actually touched in the world. And being a woman, you're empowering every little girl that comes across your path. You may not even realize that they're paying attention to you. You might be at an event just doing something or just going out of your way and helping somebody on the street or picking something up. Somebody has eyes on you at all times, and you're being a role model for our future leaders. Do it right. Go through the Women's Fund and do it right. Be a leader, be a role model, be the person you want these little girls to grow up to be. Be the person that's not confrontational, be the person that listens, opens their minds, and changes their perspective, even just a little bit, to try to meet in the middle and then work your way out. That's what is so important in the world. Because, like I said, you never know whose eyes are on you at all times. And I know, Kelly, you have many, many supporters out there. And I'm sure there are many little girls out there that are looking up to you, because I've looked up to you before I got to meet you. And then I got to meet you, and I was glad I got to meet you. And Angela, the same thing. You know what I mean? You guys are empowering women, in Rhode Island and beyond. And I can't thank you enough for what you do, and everybody needs to contact you guys. But the biggest thing is you guys are a big supporter of our Red Bag Initiative. You guys are carrying all of your medical equipment and information on you at all times, and it's non-tech based. So go to www.rampasinclusion.com and grab your red bag today. You may not only save your life, but you may save the life of a friend or a neighbor, and it works for everybody, whether you have a disability or not. So I thank you guys for being a huge supporter of our Red Bag Initiative. Kelly, what are your final words that you would like to leave everybody with? One thought that you would like to leave everybody with tonight.
Everybody can make a difference. Your voice is important, so please let it be heard.
Angela, what do you want to leave everybody with tonight?
Oh, I thought I just did that.
One final thought. Give us your powerful last sentence.
Thank you so much, Tina, for having us here tonight and being able to elevate our voices. And hopefully, I hope who's ever listening again out there in the universe, hope to meet you one day.
Yeah. Oh, and I'm sure you will be. You'll be all meeting so many people. But thank you very much, ladies, for all of that you do. I'm so glad to have you guys as guests. If the listening audience can't find us, Kelly, give us your contact information of how people can get in touch with you.
Yeah, sure. So the best way to learn about our services, our upcoming events, to connect with us, et cetera, is through our website. So it's www.wf as in fund. So W women F fund RI, the initials for the state, WFRI.org. Once you get there, you'll find it easy to navigate the website and learn all about the different things that we're doing and find ways to connect. People are volunteering as bloggers, for example. So if you're somebody who likes to write, that's something you absolutely can, share your experience about being a differently abled person and a woman and what needs to change in our communities. We'd love to hear your story that way. There are other ways to get involved as well, and you can learn all about that on our website. Thanks so much.
And if you didn't catch that website, you can always reach out to me, and I will be more than happy to pass on Kelly or Angela's information to you and their website, so that way you can contact you. So you always have a way to find them, because you just click where you're watching this video and you get me, and I will get you in touch with them. Thank you so much, ladies. I hope you have a great week, and I'm so glad you got your message out there, because everybody needs to call you guys, because this is incredible what you do. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Tina.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for all you do as well.
Oh, thank you. And like I tell everybody, good night. See you next week. And don't just sit there. Make a difference. Have a good night, everybody.